Welcome. My name is Tom Carmen. I'm the chairman of Advocate Drum, and I welcome you to another edition of Insights and Interviews. We have an exciting interview scheduled for today, and I'm really looking forward to it. Today we'll be interviewing and talking with Lieutenant General Walter E. Piatt. Walt was a former commanding general at Fort Drum in the 10th Mountain Division. Probably needs no introduction. He was one of the most community-minded commanding generals at Fort Drum, and he knows many people throughout the Tri-County area. But I will review his bio, and it's great to have him with us today. Walt, it's really good to see you, even if it's virtually. Lieutenant General Walter Piatt enlisted in the Army in 1979 after graduating from high school, and he served in the Army as an infantryman for 4 years. After that 4-year service, he then attended college at Lock Haven University, where he graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Biology and was commissioned as a second lieutenant in 1987. He has extensive military education, including the School of Advanced Military Studies and a fellowship with the Institute for the Study of Diplomacy at Georgetown. He also holds 2 master's degrees in the military history and military science, and an honorary doctorate degree for public service from Lock Haven University. General Piatt also has served in numerous positions all over the world, to include tours in Korea, Panama, Hawaii, Alaska, and Germany. He's completed several operational deployments as well, including Suriname, Bosnia, Kosovo, Afghanistan, and Iraq. He's also published 2 books from his experience in Afghanistan. As all of us know, Lieutenant General Piatt served as the commanding general at Fort Drum in the 10th Mountain Division from 2017 to 2019. In March of 2018, he was deployed as a division deployed to Iraq, and he assumed the duties as the Coalition Joint Land Force Component Command, where he transitioned this service to the Iraqi security forces. Lieutenant General Walter E. Piatt currently serves as the 57th Director of the Army Staff. Walt, it is so nice to have you with us. It's great to see you as well, although it is virtual, and I'm really looking forward to the interview with Randy. And next, I do want to introduce our interviewer, who is Randy Phipps. And again, Randy is well known to most of us as well. Randy actually has been a part of the North Country since he came to Fort Drum in the 10th Mountain Division as a helicopter pilot back in 1988. He met his wife the first weekend he was here, Beth, and they have lived in the North Country ever since. Randy has been involved with many community organizations during his time here. He's been involved with the Northern New York Fort Drum chapter of the Association of the United States Army, Operation Yellow Ribbon, and of course the Fort Drum Regional Liaison Organization, also known as Advocate Drum. Randy has been in healthcare for the past many years and is currently working at Claxton Hepburn Medical Center. Randy, thank you so much for agreeing and participating in this interview today. And with that, it's great to see Walt. It's great to see you, Randy, as well, although it is virtual. And I really am looking forward to this exciting interview. And thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time and once again being a part of the North Country and sharing your experience and your expertise. Thank you all very much.
Well, thank you very much, Tom. General Piatt, thank you. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today and participating in these interviews and insights sessions. Let's start off with maybe the easiest question of the day. And I understand you have a new title that's been bestowed upon you, the title of grandfather. How's that wearing on your sleeve?
It's a great title, but Randy, thanks, and thanks for having me. We are just filled with joy. Cynthia and I could not be happier. But what makes it extra special is that our grandson was born in Watertown, New York at Samaritan Army Hospital. Thanks, Tom. I had to get that plug in there. But we saw such great attention from the staff, dedication to people that really truly care for military families. And it made it extra special for me to stand outside Samaritan Hospital and see the 10th Mountain Division flag flying as my grandson was born. So we're just thrilled.
Excellent. Excellent. Congratulations. So let's, sometimes titles in the Army are a little bit overwhelming and confusing. So maybe we just start out with the basics today and get our listeners up to speed by building a foundation of what exactly your title, the Director of the Army Staff, is, what you do, what's a typical day like for you?
Yeah, first of all, I mean, there's no typical day on the Army staff, and especially for the Director of the Army Staff. They call this position the DAS. Everybody refers to me as the DAS. No longer am I Walt anymore or known by my name. I'm simply called the DAS. And it's quite an honor because it was a former Mountain Six that I think was one of the greatest directors of Army staff, General Jim Campbell. He described it perfectly. He said he would come in every day, very early in the morning to the Pentagon, knowing exactly what the Army top 10 priorities were for the day and what he needed to do to coordinate the actions. And every night, probably late at night, he would leave with 15 different ones. And he came in the morning on it. So it is a fast-moving, very busy position, but it's an honor to be here because our mission really is we coordinate the staff, the Secretariat and the Headquarters Department of the Army, the Army staff, Secretary staff, to accomplish the Secretary's vision and guidance and direction into Army action, to build the future Army and to resource the priorities of the Army of people, readiness, and modernization. And it's just an honor to work here in the Pentagon, which is a wonderful, wonderful office. It's a pretty cool office. It's a museum. It's a city in itself. And it's also the headquarters for the Department of Defense. And many people don't know that the history of this building. It was built as we were building up our military for World War II, and ground was broken to build the Pentagon on September 11th, 1941. And since then, it has been witness to the conflicts internal to our nation and external to our nation as well. But some people look down on the Pentagon like it's just filled with bureaucracy. Nothing gets done. Nothing could be further from the truth. This is a wonderful place to work, filled with patriots that just want to do our nation's work to defend our nation and our democracy.
Very good. That's a good history lesson as well. I wasn't aware of that, so thank you. It wasn't long ago, Walt, when you were here with us in the North Country as the commanding general of the 10th Mountain Division in Fort Drum. How's the transition from that been to now leading the Army staff?
Well, I miss Fort Drum every day in the 10th Mountain Division. What an honor it was to serve there. 3 different assignments in my military career were with the 10th Mountain Division. Not always at Fort Drum with the 10th Mountain Division, normally deployed, but what a great place. And nothing can compare to the honor it was to serve in the North Country. But here, I think the 10th Mountain Division really prepared me for the job at the Pentagon. We come here to serve, and we have to work hard on the Army staff so our Army has the resources it needs to accomplish the many missions we ask it to do. And I think as the DAS, I used to say this all the time in the 10th Mountain Division, but here clearly, I do windows. There is no task that is too small, too big for this office. We do it all. And I learned, coming from America's blue collar division, that it's an honor to serve your country, and you do what's required. You don't worry about it. There's great honor in all of it. And I've learned personally from the 10th Mountain Division what is possible, that we can do very hard and difficult things when we're surrounded by very good people. So I think serving in the 10th Mountain Division more than prepared me to come here, because everyone knows the 10th Mountain Division does a lot of hard work for our nation. So you learn from the best up there. So you come here and just hopefully you remembered what you learned and apply it here with the Army staff.
Well, we miss you, but we're glad that you are where you are. That gives us all comfort, and we're very proud of you. Tell us what it's like to be at the center of Army leadership. Every day you're working with the Secretary, the Chief, the Vice Chief. What's that like?
It's one word, really, it's awesome. I mean, the Secretary of the Army, the Chief of Staff of the Army, the Undersecretary, the Vice Chief of Staff of the Army, and the Sergeant Major of the Army, they're referred to as Army senior leaders, as one group. And each of them is just absolutely remarkable. And they have such a rich story of how they came up through the ranks and how they arrived at this very top level. In my word, they are all true national treasures. And I'm humbled to be around them and very proud to be under their leadership. And I see firsthand, I see it every day, how hard they work and the sacrifices they make. I'm not sure our nation or even our Army understands how hard they work. I think they think because they're up here at the very top of the Army, somehow things are catered to them. Nothing could be further from the truth. They are action figures every single day, working hard to make sure our Army is ready, that our people are taken care of, and that we're modernizing for the future. Because when our nation has a problem, they're going to call on the Department of Defense, and the Department of Defense is going to call right on the Army to respond to that need. And I just tell everybody in our Army senior leaders are the right people and the right job, and they're going to make sure that our country and our Army is ready to keep our country safe.
There's been a lot of change lately. We installed a new administration about 6 months ago. Within the last month, our first female Secretary of the Army was confirmed. Former Fort Drum, 10th Mountain alum, friend of the North Country, General Lloyd Austin, is now our Secretary of Defense. How much have the Army priorities changed as these individual leaders take charge, and as this change or the landscape changes for you and for the Army?
Secretary Austin came in here, former Mountain Six. I tell you, the Department of Defense has clearly benefited from his brilliance and his clear priorities as he came in. He's very clear. Transition is just part of the military. We go through transitions all the time, but to have a leader as qualified as Secretary Austin to come in and establish his priorities, communicate effectively, and his staff and his team all doing the same. I mean, Army priorities actually remain the same. We remain aligned with the national security strategy and the Defense Department priorities as we focus on investing in people, sustaining readiness, divesting of legacy systems, and reinvest in cutting edge technology so we can modernize the right way. It's in line with what the Secretary Austin has come in. And he also asked us to mitigate the impact of climate change and strengthening our partnership and alliances with other nations. And so that's been a very good part of the transition. The fortunate part of the transition is really Secretary Wormuth. What a brilliant person. And I know a lot of people say there's first female Secretary of the Army. I'd have to say she's probably the most qualified person for the job. She came in with clear priorities and a clear strategic and brilliant mind to lead the Army to where we need to be in the future. I mean, we know we have to take care of our people. She is pushing on that. We have to maintain our readiness to meet demand, but we also have to modernize and get prepared for the future. And Secretary Wormuth is a gifted strategic thinker and a great leader. I've never served under her before, but I tell you, the feeling on the Army staff, headquarters DA staff, is to watch her go through her confirmation process, get sworn in as our secretary, and then immediately meet posture, season, testimony, and an accelerated process of turning in our budget and POM cycle, which normally happens over 6 or 7 months. She did it in less than 45 days, and perhaps did it the best that I've ever witnessed. She is more than qualified and clearly in charge of the Army, and we're proud to have her. And the Army is in good hands, which means the nation is going to be in good hands.
Some of the demands of the American people these days is openness and transparency. How does the Army sustain openness and transparency with the American people as it relates to tough topics within the ranks? Some of these challenges are even chronic challenges, things like the Fort Hood report, sexual assault, suicides, those things that are just sort of chipping away at that culture of trust.
Yeah, these harmful behaviors of sexual assault, sexual harassment, suicide, racism, and extremism, unfortunately, they exist within our ranks. And it's very sad, and it's unacceptable. It erodes readiness, and it harms our number one priority, our people. Now, our former Secretary of the Army, Secretary McCarthy, he appointed the Fort Hood Independent Review. And what we found, and we gave them the independence and access that they needed to tell the Army why this was happening. And we all knew then, and we still know now, that it wasn't just Fort Hood. This was not an isolated incident. But some of the programs that we have in place, what Fort Hood Independent Review showed us, and sadly so, that some of the programs the Army has in place to help our soldiers deal with these harmful behaviors and prevent these harmful behaviors were not working. We were in compliance. We had the program, we had the system, but we weren't measuring outcomes, we were measuring compliance. And we I mean, first, it's just sad, and it sickened the Army senior leaders and Army leaders at all level that our soldiers were experiencing this, and worse, in some cases, not getting the help they needed when they asked for it. We have to do better, and we are. We accepted the findings of the Fort Hood Independent Review, and we are aggressively enacting all the recommendations they placed on us and more. So the program didn't work. What will work? We're listening. We started a Your Voice Matters tour because, again, Fort Hood just showed us what was happening around the Army. So we went to we're still doing it, but we're going to hit every Army installation. And we're going to conduct what we're calling a Your Voice Matters listening tour. And they are giving us, the soldiers are giving us the feedback from what they've said. Many of the same issues we saw in Fort Hood Independent Review, some are different. But it's allowing us to see it from the soldier level, that the things that we need to have in place to improve quality of life in a safe and secure environment. And we just have to do better. And Army did. We published a people strategy. We were promoting this is my squad approach from the Sergeant Major of the Army, so we can build fit and disciplined, cohesive teams, a team that surrounds a soldier of their squad leader, their teammate, and their family. A triad of care around a soldier that will know what the soldier is experiencing. And when a soldier is experiencing a stressor, maybe financial, maybe relationship, maybe something there, maybe he or she is receiving some harassment, sexual harassment, that triad of care should identify that, and take care of that soldier. We do this in combat, but yet we fail to do it when we're in garrison, and it's unacceptable. But the review, nobody pushed back on the review. The Army accepted this. It's unacceptable, but we accepted their findings as reality that it's happening, and we are being transparent in our response, and we won't stop until we build these teams so that we can regain the trust of our soldiers and also regain the trust in some parts of our nation, so they know when you come into the Army, you're joining a family, and a family does not abuse one another. We take care of one another. But this showed areas where we need to improve, and Randy, we will. We have to. Our nation's security depends on our Army being a cohesive team.
Another topic around that as well, very close to that, and it's a topic that affects all of us, really, the corporate world as well. But what's being done to confront racism and discrimination within the Army and increase sensitivity around those tough topics like diversity, equity, inclusion? What are some initiatives that the Army's undertaking?
Yeah, it is, and again, it's part of that harmful behavior. Racism and extremism, it exists. We recruit and we get soldiers from all different walks of life and different perspectives. I think diversity has always been one of the Army's greatest strengths, but it's also a challenge for us. We actually just took a pause. Secretary Austin we did an extreme stand down day across the entire Army, but we also took a pause before that to do listening sessions with our own small teams, to hear everybody's story, to hear a story of a soldier, where they were raised, and what challenges they faced while growing up. And it just built a common understanding that we all come from different walks of life, and we're people. We're people, and we just need to establish that bond. These were very powerful across the Army, and we still do them. We still do these listening sessions where a soldier will just give a testimony of things that they experienced. And sometimes you don't know because you're really close to a certain soldier that may be a minority, but then you hear some of the things that he or she went through, and you're like, oh my God, this has been my best friend. I didn't know that you were experiencing this. I've counted on you in combat. I would put my life down for you, and I know you do the same for me, but yet in some other part of his or her life, they were experiencing racism. And it's a conversation our country has to have, and it's a conversation our Army has, but diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's a key part of our Army people strategy that we recently published. And our strategic goals include leader commitment, talent management, organizational structure, training, and education, so people are aware of where this exists and be able to see the signs of it. We're not excused from it. We come from society, we reflect our own society, but we have to be able to address it. But to address it, I think we have to first be able to just have a conversation about it. And I think we're committed in our people strategy that we must acquire, develop, employ, and retain the best and brightest of America's talent pool. And so we have a responsibility to the people that join our force that they're going to be treated equally. But our country still has problems with this. We saw that after the killing of George Floyd. We saw the reaction to that. In a country where we were created, our Declaration of Independence said all men are created equal, but all people aren't treated equally. We have to get to where all people, men, women, all race, color, religion. In the Army, it doesn't matter, who your father was or your mother was. You don't come from royalty in our country. This is open. I enlisted as a private. It didn't matter what I came from, what my family status income was. It mattered what I did, it mattered what my performance did and what I could contribute. And then by contributing, I could also achieve things in the Army. We can do this, but our nation has a long history of racial issues, and we have to get through them as a country. And I think our Army can help lead our nation through that as well, because one, we recognize it, we understand we can't tolerate it, but we don't ignore it. We know that it exists, and we continue to train and develop that recognition so people will have acceptance of one another, because we as an Army have to fight as a team. We are only strong as our team is. And so anything that erodes or breaks away from that team or trust erodes our readiness and puts our mission at risk, and therefore puts our nation at risk.
We're bombarded every day with news from everywhere. It's tough for us to understand here in northern New York what the real threats might be or what the big ones are. From the Army DAS, what are the major global threats to the nation today? And what's the Army's role in defending or defeating those threats?
Yeah, there are many, and that's the reality of it. There are many. There's no shortage. There's borderless threats like the pandemic, like COVID. We saw that can happen. We saw that with Ebola in Africa. There's violent extremism. There are numerous cyber threats. Our nation is seeing that over and over again about state and non-state actors being able to attack us in the cyber domain and have impact right here within our country. And also the effects of the climate crisis that we're facing around the world. But there's an increasingly contested information environment, changing distribution of global power that draws new lines and value propositions of our allies and partners. The results of, or what happens after COVID in many countries is going to cause economic strains. One of the biggest victims of the pandemic are some of these small countries. They're just their economies. That's causing a major security concern where people their economies on the verge of collapse and are still being threatened by a pandemic. How we come out of that is going to identify a lot of other threats. And then there's still the emergence of great power competition of China and Russia. But there are a lot of threats caused. We're still in this pandemic, and it's causing threats, not just the physical threat of the virus and the transmission of other variants, and it's also what it's doing to nations, to their economies, as people are sick and businesses are shut down. They don't have their trades are reduced. So that presents an opportunity for other bad actors to do it. And other threats from countries that mean our nation harm through violent extremism, those still exist. So we have to be cognizant for that, and we have to prepare. We have to be ready today. We have to be our Army. What we're doing about it is we have a force globally deployed for what we would call competition, to build up those partners and allies, to make sure we have strong alliances, and we're working with other countries. We're ready in a moment's notice to respond to crisis whenever crises arise, and we continue to prepare for any future conflict that could be. And by preparing for future conflict, like major wars, the Army helps prevent that future conflict from happening. But all these threats happen; they all happen simultaneously, and not all of them are like, it's not an orchestrated threats against the U.S. so they can hit us all at once. And it's one the Army has to be able to do it. We have to protect our assets at home, and we have to make sure that our partners and allies are protected abroad with us, and we have to be prepared for major contingencies, and we are.
So the 9/11 attacks happened 20 years ago. Nation's war on terrorism is winding down. Fighting terrorism is no longer really the driving force for making a decision to serve in the military. How's the Army motivating young women, men and women, to take the oath and join the Army and serve?
Well, yeah, sadly, I was there on Fort Drum on 9/11, and we watched as the world watched, planes hit the trade towers of the Pentagon, and then in a small Pennsylvania field not too far from my hometown. Those were sad days, and it showed us many things, that many people want to attack our way of life. I mean, we're a country that would gladly give our liberties to anybody who would ask for it, but we're going to fight anyone who tries to take it by force or deny us. And I think that call is always there. The threat will change over time. The conflicts will change over time, but the threat has not gone away. Violent extremism continues to today. Nobody surrendered on those fields. We kept it away from our homeland. We achieved many strategic objectives throughout this long war, but the threat did not lay down its arms and surrender. They intend to undermine the United States of America and our independence we fought so hard for. That requires Army to continually modernize, and that continually modernized Army requires a ready force, and that ready force requires great talented people, and those are our young men and women that choose to serve something higher. I actually see this generation wanting to do something. They're not all after just a high-paying job. What's in it for me? I want this benefit, that benefit. The call to serve something greater than self still exists. And it's in the young men and women that make up our nation. They truly are our national treasure. And we want them to come and serve, because in the Army, there's a wide range of things you can do. I enlisted at 17 years old because it was appealing to me to jump out of airplanes. That was my scope of my ambition in my life. But what I found was an organization that cared about people. Now, we do hard things, and they ask hard things of us, but you do it with wonderful people, and it has purpose. And I'm not sure every career has purpose. This is a profession, and we need, young men and women across America to answer that call and serve their country. And we're seeing no shortage of that. There is that strong desire to still do it. So I think there remains threats today. There'll be another threat that's unknown that we didn't see coming, and there'll be majors at Fort Drum that are there when our country goes through another shocking event like we did on 9/11, as Major Piatt did when I was there. And I realized all my whole life, I prepared to fight overseas. I thought we would fight a big war. And then what we had was a terrorist attack on a country, and a plane crashed literally 8 miles from my hometown. My first thoughts were of my family. I signed up for this. I'm supposed to be protecting our home, and yet it's being attacked. We will continue, I think, to recruit our nation's very best, because they will be needed to keep our nation at our very best.
Great. One of your personal initiatives is improving military resiliency through this program called Mindfulness. Many of us in the civilian world are also in high stress positions and jobs that we could use some sort of advantage or tool to help us also be in the moment, if you will, mentally as well as physically. How can we use mindfulness? Tell us about mindfulness and how we can use it both in the civilian and the military world.
Yeah, the good news is it's free. All you got to do is know how to breathe. And so we all do. But sitting still and breathing and pushing away thoughts as your mind begins to wander is an incredibly difficult thing to do, especially for busy people that have been trained their whole life that multitasking is good. Working long hours is more productive. Less sleep will help you beat out the competition. All those things are wrong. They actually erode at the skill sets you need, the mental capacity you need to bring to a problem. You need to be in the moment without judgment, one task at a time. I learned this in 2010 as a brigade commander when I was introduced to it. I call it push-ups for my mind. I mean, we all know we should do physical fitness. I mean, we don't need a doctor to tell us that. Maybe we don't do it enough. We all know we should eat our vegetables, right? We all know we should get more sleep, but sometimes we don't do it. But what do we do for our mind? Its most important part is always in fast forward or rewind mode. We're always thinking about yesterday, what did I do? Maybe with some regret. We're always thinking about what I need to do tomorrow. We're never right there, right now. And with people who have incredibly high stress jobs, these are exactly the people that need this the most. It really is just, mindfulness is just a series of meditation with a lot of practices that can be done minutes a day, and it will help you be in that moment when you need to be in that moment, every single one. I often say when I first started practicing in 2010, I went home and I actually heard my wife talk to me. She was speaking to me. Before, I was processing a response or trying to solve a problem. I was never really listening. And I listened, and I think Cynthia's actually got a wonderful voice. She's really not asking anything of me. She just wants to have a conversation with me. But I'm so forward and not in the moment. I'm trying to answer the question that doesn't even exist. And I'm playing football catch with my son, who said, "Dad, you're not on your BlackBerry," is what we used back then. But he said, "You're here." And I started to think, how many times was I not here? And with the moments so rare, because we were deployed and back only 1 year were we home. And Cynthia used to tell me, don't deploy until you deploy. Mentally, she saw that I was not there, but this taught me how to be there. And it really is for everybody. There's so much about it online. There's so many easy ways to start. The research has been productive. Fort Drum and the 10th Mountain Division have been a part of that research. So our family members, our spouses participated in studies. The science is compelling. The more research we do, the more we'll know about. But this is not hocus pocus. This really works, and it helps you reduce stress, helps you increase your intention. And when you're in a high stress job, attention is a good thing to have. Recognizing stress coming up is a good thing to have. Knowing that something is getting you excited is a good thing to be able to understand about yourself. So I'm a big advocate for it. And it doesn't cost anything. You can buy a meditation cushion, or you can just simply sit in a chair. It's not that difficult. And a lot of good people have written about it. John Kabat-Zinn is the big, I'd call him the Yoda of mindfulness in the United States. But many people, Dan Harris, ABC news anchor, Tim Ryan, a congressman from Ohio, he writes a couple of books about the use of this in jobs, especially law enforcement, fire department, high stress executives. Lots being written. Dr. Elizabeth Stanley from Georgetown has written much on this topic, and my friend Amishi Jha, who's been to Fort Drum several times to help our soldiers, she's got a book coming out soon, and she's got a lab at the University of Miami that studies this and how we can better apply it to the military. And her work is going to benefit our soldiers and their families.
I've looked into mindfulness a little bit, and I've tried it, and it works for me as well. Just making that time, the discipline, taking the discipline to make that time to do it is the challenge. But once you're there, it works. So
that's the first step. Yeah. Dan Harris says it's like holding a live fish in your hand. It's just bouncing all over the place. Your mind is bound. He calls his mind like a monkey, because it is. Our minds are so busy. But just that act of sitting down and just committing to the time is one of the best steps you can do. It really is, because then you're telling yourself, I'm gonna calm here a little bit, and by doing so, I'm gonna be better. And then you don't have to do it just once a day. You can do a short walk. You can do anything that will help you just bring focus back, and just take a moment for yourself. I think we're certainly worth it, and to do these very important jobs. I tell people, how dare we give our best military advice if we're not at our best? We have to be there. We owe it to our soldiers and our nation to be on task, to be in the moment.
For those of us who have been around the North Country for a while, we've heard commander after commander tell us that the North Country is the best community in which they've ever served. How important, from your perspective, is the interaction with the community and the military to the success of the soldiers?
It's absolutely vital, and it is truly the best place I've ever served, and most of it. I mean, the 10th Mountain Division is the toughest division in the Army. They're truly mountain tough. They've done that. They've proven about history, but the community connection is what really makes it powerful. Because if you give a military family or a soldier a good place to live, access for their family for education and good health care, and a pleasant community that doesn't prey upon them, but actually embraces them as that this is your home. That's powerful. And then a soldier will be willing to do anything when he knows his family or her family is living in that kind of environment. So many times when you go to Fort Drum in the 10th Mountain Division, you often don't stay at Fort Drum, but your family does, and you deploy. And to know that your family is living in a community like that truly cares. I mean, it isn't an act with the North Country. They truly care about the military families and every soldier. I tell them when they're on their first assignments, I want to talk to you in 30 days, and you're going to come back to me and say, wow, I really like it here. It could be just something as little as someone at the mall saying something nice to them or being included. They don't feel like, they're away from home, and it's hard for a young soldier to serve away from home. Everybody gets homesick. I did. And to be included in the community and just people to be nice to you, it's just very powerful, and it's very genuine in the North Country. And it's why it is the best place to serve.
Spoken like a pro. Obviously, we mentioned earlier you've been here a few times now, served here at Fort Drum a few times. Looking back, what are some of your fondest memories of serving at Fort Drum?
There are many, so bear with me, please. My first memory was Mrs. Gibbs came to our house the day before Jessica started school, her first day of school. I'll never forget. She visited the day prior just to get to know Jessica and reduce her anxiety of her first day of school. Our children began school at Evans Mills, and they both graduated from Carthage High School. Go Comets. And of course, September 11th, it was a sad day, but I remember Buster Hagenbach saying, our nation won't ask if we're ready. They'll expect it. And you saw our division be the first to go. I remember at cross-country practices and football practices at Carthage High School, hearing my son's name called out by Coach Millich. But I also remember Coach Millich giving my son sage advice about, if you don't want to throw interceptions, don't be a quarterback. What a developmental lesson that was. I remember the Lost Village tours we gave in getting to bring people back to their family homesteads on Fort Drum. The amazing pollinator and Lost Village decorations we used as we celebrated the holidays with communities and members at Luray Mansion. Winning the peace in Iraq as a division commander and growing grass in the desert, both physically and metaphorically. I remember Mountain Fest, River Fest, and every business after hours. It's just so much fun. I remember Luray Mansion lending its history and grandness to my daughter's wedding and the birth of our grandson at Samaritan Army Hospital. And I'll always remember the kind and elegant Barb Weber, Our Lady of the Mountain. Fort Drum was never an assignment for Cynthia and I. It was home, and it always will be.
Unfortunately, our time's running out. What are some parting words for us here at Fort Drum? What can we do to support the soldiers that are part of our community? What can we do to make their job here or their stay in our community better?
It's simple. It's very simple. Continue to be yourself. The North Country's known. Everybody, the reputation is snow and cold weather and more snow, but it's the warmth of your hearts that make the North Country so special. Never forget that. Your kindness matters, and it embraces the military members there, and they become home. It becomes home like it has for Cynthia and I and the Piatt family.
General Piatt, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your friendship. And thank you for leaving a piece of you and the Piatt family here at Fort Drum. Time glory.
To the top. Thank you, Randy. It's so good to see you.